Are about to be spoken and things are about to be broken one last time in this final rendition of Becoming Broken here on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Let me say it, John.
What's that?
Becoming Broken!
There it is. We are broadcasting from the Blue Chew Studios. Try Blue Chew free when you use our promo code Hardy at checkout. Just pay $5 shipping. I'm John Alba, and you, of course, already heard the broken brilliance himself, Mr. Matt Hardy. Did I nail it that time?
It was very good, yes.
Okay.
Damascus is proud. The entity driving my vessel is proud.
Well, we are in a great mood today here on this episode. This is WrestleMania 33, the final edition of the Becoming Broken series. As I said, Matt's in a comfy chair right now, a good couch, if you will. He's got an array of beverages. Life's good if you're Matt Hardy.
I do. Look at this. I have everything someone who needs a lot of fluids needs.
Yes. Well, you are coming to us from Boston right now as we prepare for this week's AEW Dynamite. And you have a tables match tonight as we tape this. I'm terrified for you. You always scare the shit out of me. When you
should be scared. I want to break a minimum of a dozen tables tonight. We'll see how many Papa Khan has on the truck.
Well, I'm probably going to end up texting you after something of the lines of "What the fuck is wrong with you?" So I look forward to doing that.
I hope.
This was a busy wrestling week, man. This was a real busy wrestling week because not just AEW, not just Ring of Honor, but also WrestleMania week in general. Stone Cold Steve Austin, your boy, back in the ring wrestling. Vince McMahon taking stunners. Cody Rhodes showing up in WWE. I want to run through this stuff with you. First of all, what do you think of Cody showing up?
I thought it was done really well. And, I'm happy for him. I've always had a very good relationship with Cody. I spent a lot of time with Cody, obviously, during the pandemic era. We were stuck in Jacksonville, and, we would do a live Dynamite, and then we would also tape the next day, the Dynamite for the following week. And then, Tony Khan was looking to get a lot of just footage and content at that time. So we were doing hours upon hours of dark. I mean, sometimes we would be in Daly's place till 3 a.m. in the morning recording stuff for dark or whatever. So there was a lot of time that I spent with all those AEW guys. The guys in the very beginning of AEW, especially during the pandemic era, obviously spent a lot of time together. So I actually grew really close with Cody during that time. So, it always sucks to see someone leave, especially when you're kind of, when your buddies with you, when you're you work together, your acquaintances, and you have a great relationship, but it's also, you're happy for them whenever they go somewhere else and they're going to be successful. And it's kind of like they get a new lease on life, and you have to do that in wrestling. I feel like I'm a prime example of that. Like, you can't stay in one place for too long unless you were like the guy. And there's only a few of those. There's going to be an Undertaker. There's going to be a Roman Reigns. There's going to be a guy that is like the guy at a place. But everybody else, you kind of have to keep moving around to keep yourself hot and relevant and new and fresh. So I was very happy for Cody. I thought his presentation was great. It was AEW Cody, which is cool. And also a big hats off to AEW for creating such an amazing character on their television, between Cody and AEW. So I was very happy for him, and I thought they had a killer match. Him and Seth Rollins they really tore the house down.
I was going to say, because Eric Bischoff and I talked about this on our new Strictly Business podcast over on Ad Free Shows, that it's really cool, whereas AEW was established as this alternative to WWE, right?
Yeah.
Now AEW has become big enough that it was able to platform somebody that they were able to leverage their success there into a massive money deal with WWE. I don't think Cody gets that kind of deal with WWE just from working what was Ring of Honor, the Indies. It's because of what AEW has platformed itself as, and that's really healthy for the business overall.
Yes. I mean, and that's why whether you love them or you hate him, and people usually do when it comes to Papa Khan, when it comes to TK Tony Khan, man. I mean, he has done amazing things for the business. It is a much better, healthier place because he is involved in it. And now that AEW is around, there is a large level global platform, whether you want to admit that or not. It's a global platform that is watched all across the earth. It is nowhere near the entity that WWE is. I mean, but also WWE has decades upon decades on us as well, but like AEW is a special place, and it makes the business better for not only the fans, but also the wrestlers. It makes it much healthier for us to make a living and have a great career.
What do you think of Austin returning?
I loved it. I was so happy that Steve got that moment. Steve was always great to myself and my brother, but he was always real cool with me. We had a great relationship. I'll bring him up later in this podcast, I'm sure, whenever we start talking about the Ring of Honor stuff and the lawsuit, because he reached out to me. But I was so happy to see that moment. He looked great, looked like $1,000,000, and I'm so glad he got to have a match in 2022, and it was done and it was constructed in the right way where he looked great in it. And I had texted him later that night and then got to talk to him a little later on. So I was very happy for him, and no one more deserving, in my opinion, than Stone Cold Steve Austin to have that moment.
I don't remember if I said this to you or not between us, but this is, whether direct or indirect, this is a total correlation to what Sting has paved the way for. Sting has paved the way for older guys to go out there, go out on their own terms, and have matches that the fans can really enjoy. It was a no holds barred, let's go out there, take some suplexes, and have a blast.
I agree. And Sting now is the trailblazer of that, being 63, if I'm not mistaken. I mean, the stuff he's done and the supporting cast he has around him is very smart and very in the know with how to work with him. And that's what they did. I'm so happy too for Kevin Owens. I have a lot of respect for him. I got to talk to him afterwards too. But I'm so glad he got that moment, because he was a guy that I first worked with in Ring of Honor, and I knew he was special right from moment one. I mean, he's such a great performer, especially a lot of people then were judgmental on his body shape or whatever, but to hell with that, man. Like, that really doesn't make a difference in this day and age. It's all about how athletic you are, what you can do, how well you can entertain people. And he is an incredible speaker in 2 languages, in French and in English. So I got a lot of love for Kevin and a lot of respect for him. And especially like over kids and family stuff, we've bonded a little more throughout the years. So I'm so happy he got that moment against Steve. And he was the perfect guy to put in that situation, in my opinion, as well, to give Steve the best outing he could possibly have.
Well, and here's a little Extreme Life of Matt Hardy scoop for those of you paying attention here. May 6th, Matt and I are going to be doing an episode on Kevin Owens. And to my knowledge, that's going to be the first time Kevin Owens has ever been covered long form in a podcast. So that should be
really? Okay.
So I'm excited to see what is inside the locked room that is your mind, Mr. Matt Hardy. And then we got the Ring of Honor launch too this past week. What do you think of the Ring of Honor launch? And I know it was kind of tentative, but Samoa Joe, FTR and the Briscoes having an all-time great tag match. This was good stuff.
Oh my God, FTR and the Briscoes was amazing. I mean, it blew me away. Made me proud to be a person who loves tag team wrestling, who believes tag team wrestling deserves main event status. Those guys killed it. FTR, they really are great. I love how they incorporate old school aspects into a new school game. And the Briscoes, they're one of my favorite tag teams of all time. And I want nothing but the best for those guys. I love Jay and Mark. They're both great guys. And I know there's a lot of people out there that are judgmental on them from stuff 10, 12 years ago. But I just feel like one thing as society we have to learn how to do is also forgive people when they legitimately change. Like, there's a lot of people, if they hadn't forgiven me whenever I went through my tough period, my turbulent time, and hadn't forgiven me, then, I wouldn't be who I am now. So I want to just put this out now publicly. I would like people to embrace the Briscoes, especially Jay. That's who they judge it on. Like, he is not represented by that one tweet that stands out so much about him. He is a much wiser, older, matured person, and he's a good dude. And I really want the best for those guys.
He's spoken out at length about it too.
Yeah.
And offered contrition on that front. And one more thing, Cameron Grimes, new North American champion, man.
Oh man, yeah. Yeah, that made me proud, man. I was there when he was born, so I've been there since the beginning of his run. Literally.
So cool. So cool. I know that meant a lot to you to see that. So good stuff there.
Also, I just wanted to say in general, like the Ring of Honor pay-per-view, I thought the presentation was great. I thought Tony did an amazing job with it. And very happy to see Samoa Joe back. I actually saw him last night when I checked into this hotel, and there was no handshake. It was straight to the big hug, man. It was so great to see him after all the years. So what a great dude, and I'm so happy he is going to be getting this run too.
Joe is legitimately a top 10 performer all time for me. Like, he's that high on my list. I could watch Samoa Joe walk to the ring and be thrilled. That's that presence, his swagger, his charisma, his promo ability. And he's one of the most believable guys in between those three ropes that you're ever going to see. So
without a doubt,
good stuff there. All right, man.
What a great brother overall too. Just a great dude, a great brother.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right, my friend. So when I conceptualized this podcast almost 4 years ago, the impetus for it was WrestleMania 33. I was at WrestleMania 33 in Orlando, and I saw my favorite tag team return in an all-time great WrestleMania moment. We have had 5 parts of this Becoming Broken series where we have chronicled your turn into your broken brilliance leading up to this very point. This is the final edition of Becoming Broken, and with that said, it's time for our Matt Facts. So hit us with it.
Matt Facts. Matt cherishes his WrestleMania 33 return.
And how could he not? A legit all-time great pro wrestling moment. Let's talk about it. So we talked about in the first episode of The Extreme Life how, if you remember, this is a No Mercy ladder match in 1999. Jeff Hardy specifically was raking in all the awards throughout pro wrestling, especially in the Wrestling Observer Awards. Well, it's 2017 now, and it's Matt Hardy's turn. In the Observer Awards in March, you finished 6th in most charismatic, and that includes MMA, wrestling, and boxing. Yeah, Conor McGregor comes in first for that. So to be in the same category as Conor McGregor is pretty cool, Matt. But most importantly, you win Best Gimmick in a landslide vote. Now, what you got to remember is this is not Dave Meltzer determining these. These are die-hard wrestling fans voting you as the best gimmick. The same people that love 6-star matches love broken Matt Hardy. When you hear that, what goes through your head?
I mean, it's very cool. And it's funny, when I was going through the notes for this episode, like I may have remembered, winning those awards, but it's crazy. Like, kind of the, Dave Meltzer's awards aren't something that I really focus on as much. I focus mainly on doing whatever I'm doing currently and trying to be as over as possible and trying to be as entertaining as possible and just as good as possible in whatever role it is. If it's my job to go out and get cheered and be loved, that's what I try and do as a babyface. And then if it's my job to be a heel, I really try and be a piece of shit and act and speak in a certain way to make people dislike me, and hopefully I say, oh my God, he has X-Pac heat. So if I'm doing that and they want to see someone whip my ass, or, they're legit annoyed by me, I feel like I'm doing my job. So whether they agree with that or not, I'm in the business, and that's the right way.
Just to show how polarizing this is, though, Matt, you also pick up votes for worst gimmick. So
I'm sure. But that's one of those things. Broken Matt Hardy is pretty clear cut. You either love it or you hate it. And as time has gone on, and when it was on a bigger stage, as Woken Matt Hardy later in WWE, and exposed to a more mainstream audience, I mean, there were people who really despised it and thought it was like the worst thing ever. Like, it's going to kill the business. Like, I'm sure guys who were doing too many house spots and not working a headlock for 10 minutes in the match, they said back in the 80s, like, you're going to kill the business, and then once it changed, like the Ring of Honor started, they're going to kill the business. And now AEW's on, they're going to kill the business. Once again, Broken Matt Hardy was like, they're going to kill the business. That's how stuff is generationally. That's what old people say to young people. And I've always tried to be an old people who changes with the times as far as it goes. And Broken Matt Hardy was going to play to my strengths, where I could, kind of optimize my athletic ability, but then do a lot more Broadway, over the top performance art as far as that goes. So it's always been polarizing since day one, since that contract signing that Jeff and I did. And I knew that wasn't going to change. And then it became more polarizing once it was on a bigger platform. But something I do know now for sure, there's a lot of demand. There are a lot of people that love it, and that just they covet Broken Matt Hardy returning. And there are people that just say, if that Broken Matt Hardy ever stops, I'm gonna stop watching wrestling altogether. They just hate it. So there's a platform for it. It's just reaching the correct people. So maybe it doesn't deserve on like an it doesn't not that it doesn't deserve. Maybe it doesn't belong on an AEW platform on the television show because it is more sports centric. And I have realized that over the years being here. But I think as like a miniseries, a standalone, the multiverse of Matt Hardy, whatever it may be, there is a place for Broken Matt Hardy to be mega entertaining and still watched and beloved by the people that do love it.
There's always a spot for Broken Matt Hardy on the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. I promise you that. Do you remember any veterans in particular? Like, can you name one that said to you, "You're killing the business" with something like this? Like, did Rip Rogers come up to you one day and was just like, "Matt Hardy, you're done. That's it. Like, what are you doing?"
Okay. No one has ever said anything negative with the exception of Jim Cornette, and that's just been recently. He claimed he didn't watch it whenever I did the TNA stuff. He said, I like the Hardys so much, I don't want to watch this. He said they're doing that dumb shit and, they're teleporting, whatever they're doing. Brother, it's just entertainment. I mean, when the Midnight Express would grab someone for the Vegematic, I mean, that's not real either. It is what it is. When someone shoots someone into the ropes, it's not real. And sure, I get where they're coming from, but at the end of the day, my argument will always be it's entertainment. It's never going to change from being entertainment. Pro wrestling is pro wrestling, and I love straight up athletic pro wrestling. It's great stuff, but also I love the entertainment aspect as well. So he's the only person that's been outspoken, but he was very happy to work with him whenever we did a tag match. He managed the God, what are their names now in WWE? When they were the War Machines before,
the Viking Raiders. The
Viking Raiders is what they are now, right? He managed the Viking Raiders versus Broken Matt and Brother Nero at an indie show, and he took a big bump for Broken Matt. So Cornette is a great man, and he's very old school mentality, and he's also working a shtick. I mean, that's what he does now. He works the shtick, and it works for his audience and his niche in the podcast world. So good for him.
Manny Fernandez never came up to you, said anything about the.
No, is Manny Fernandez still on this realm? Is he on this plane? I don't know. I haven't heard anything from Manny Fernandez in a long time.
Just was curious. Okay, because
that's a great callback.
You didn't go to a La Quinta or anything?
I haven't recently. No. I like to stay at the Marriott.
Love that so much. Rebby Hardy's going to a La Quinta in Secaucus to do a trading card signing. So
there you have it. Yeah, big appearance for Queen Rebecca. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Yeah, we're both out signing autographs that weekend. It's gonna be magnificent,
intoxicating.
Yes.
So
exhilarating.
We are at early March here in 2000.
John, I'm sorry, I got to jump in again.
Of course.
WrestleMania. I almost felt like it borrowed for Broken Matt Hardy because at the beginning of WrestleMania they used so many adjectives. Adjectives was a big thing. Stupendous was also a big Broken Matt Hardy word too. Just FYI.
For some reason, I don't think you're going to see a royalty check on that one.
No, I don't expect that either. I don't even see a royalty check for my network stuff. Are you kidding me?
Really? Interesting.
No. The network was very brilliantly conceived,
and it was also rendered obsolete when they bought the Peacock. So
that is true. Yeah,
that was another thing. Interesting. That's a topic of conversation later down the line, I think.
I did just get buzz from Dominic. He said he saw Manny in Amarillo, Texas recently, so he is still on this realm. If you're watching, Manny Fernandez. Hello, Manny Fernandez. I hope you're well.
Matt Hardy brand on YouTube. Don't forget. 5-star review, please, Manny Fernandez.
5 stars, Manny. Come on. Give me a Raging Bull 5-star review. 5 time.
I'm liking this Matt Hardy today. This is a good Matt Hardy. Anyway, from the Observer, Matt Hardy claimed that the Hardy Boys had signed a contract with the Honorable Ring, that the rumors of them going to WWE were false, and the general belief almost universally in wrestling was that they are headed there. And Ring of Honor is just a pit stop, with the only holdup being their medicals. Is there truth to that? Is that Matt fact that the medicals were the thing getting in the way?
Matt fact.
Okay.
Medicals didn't get in the way. They were no problem.
Okay. That's good to know.
The day after our contract was done, we'd sign. A day after that, we were doing medical work.
Wow.
Quick, fast, in a hurry.
So you mentioned last week you figured you and Jeff would end up in WWE ultimately, but after winning the Ring of Honor titles, Is that the plan at that juncture? Had they gauged any interest in you guys?
I mean, in all actuality, we knew towards the end of our TNA deals, while we were still under contract, that there was major interest in us with WWE, and because our TNA contracts had been very unsure, especially because Jeff Jarrett was there. And as I've said in the past, I love Jeff Jarrett now. He wasn't in the best place in his life, and he was, kind of giving us a hard time as far as negotiating going, and what we're going to get, especially what was originally promised from Ed Nordum. And then WWE came along. We'd heard there were huge interest, so we're going to let our contracts ride out and see what was going to be next. Then we spoke with them. They gave us an amazing offer. We went ahead and jumped right on getting the physical and the medical stuff done. And we were immediately signed with WWE after we left TNA. The Ring of Honor thing was just a red herring the whole while.
So WWE let you guys do the Ring of Honor?
100%. Yes. I talked to Vince. I talked to Hunter, and they were totally cool with it. Hunter was my main point of contact all throughout this negotiating. And this might be hard to believe, but I am the business guy of the Hardy Boys. As I've said before, in a matter of fact, that, I am the architect of the Hardy Boys. I did all the talking, and Jeff, trust me with all that. And it's best that way. And I spoke with Hunter, obviously. I remember speaking with Michael Hayes first. That was my first contact with him.
You mentioned that on the Michael Hayes episode, that he was the first one that you guys spoke to. So so your contracts end with Impact February 27th. You guys walk away. Yeah. Are they right on top of you?
Yes. Well, I remember Michael calling, and Michael said, the quote, he said, "I never thought I'd be making this call." He said, "But Vince really wants you guys to come home, especially with everything you guys have done. We've been keeping up with you." He said he wonders why they keep chanting delete at these WWE events. Why do they keep saying delete? What does that mean? Delete? What the fuck? Why does it say delete over and over and over? Delete, delete, delete. Like, what is that? So what's the thing the Hardys are doing now? That's kind of what's going on. And then I said, yeah, we're totally down. And he said, well, I'm gonna have Paul call you, Triple H. And I said, please do. And I'll talk to him then. And I kind of caught up with Michael, just personal stuff like, how's life? Good. How's your life? And then Triple H reached out, spoke to him. We talked about some terms and how long we wanted to go. And we said we didn't want to do this for 5 years. Obviously, we don't know how much longer we have left. We're obviously getting a little older, and we came out to a comfortable arrangement, and they gave us an incredible offer. And we went back to WWE making the most money we've ever made there for a guarantee. So it was a good deal. And I told Hunter, I said, I had spoke with the Young Bucks, and we had this thing worked out where we were going to do an interpromotional angle between TNA and Ring of Honor, where we're going to work with one another. But it's still on the table. We can go to ROH and win the tag team titles and hold them throughout. We can drop them the night before WrestleMania, which is where they had already kind of had in mind we were going to make our debut. That was a month out. They knew that's where they wanted us to start. I said, so we could fill that time up, and we could kind of portray the image that we're going to be working with Ring of Honor as a red herring to kind of keep people guessing that we're not returning to WWE immediately. And Hunter was down for it. And he just said, just keep me clued in on every little bit of it. Keep me up to speed and just stay in contact with me. And I did. I stayed in close contact with Triple H all throughout that month.
A couple of things I want to break down from that. Number one, let's talk about Triple H. Just announced his in-ring retirement, got the send-off at WrestleMania. Anything you want to add on that?
It is what it is. I mean, we all have to retire one day. I remember I reached out to him after I heard about his condition and spoke to him briefly. Obviously, I've known Paul for a very long time and worked with him many, many times and had good experiences with him. He's incredible in the ring, one of the smoothest workers you'll ever be in the ring with, really smart, student of the game, loves the business. And obviously, I love this insane shit. So I really bond with anybody else who has that much of a love for it. But whenever I came back to WWE those last years, 2017 through 2020, I mean, I had a great relationship with him. And I feel like once he retired from being a full-time wrestler, and he was more of an office person, and NXT was really his huge passion. And he loved that so much with every iota of his heart. That was really special to him, building that kind of from the ground up and creating something special. I got along great with him. And I feel like anytime he produced any of our stuff, he did some of the stuff with myself and Bray, and he had really good ideas. And he was really selfless when it came to helping talent, I feel like, especially once he didn't have to focus on anything in ring. He was at his best at that point. So I had a great relationship with him those last 3 years I was there, for sure, the best. I'd always got along with him fine. You know, there's times where earlier on people criticized him a lot for being political, especially in maybe the way he utilized himself or used his power. And maybe that's the case. I was never a guy that was at that level that had to deal with that, obviously. You know, I worked along with him and Steve, and I know him and Steve butted heads occasionally once in a while. But like, Hunter has always been good to me. In those last 3 years, he was great. He was fantastic. And I reached out to him and wanted to make sure he was okay. And I was glad he was hopefully recovering well. And it sucks he has to retire, but I'm glad he's healthy because he has a big family and I know he loves his daughters.
Yeah. And we talked about in the archives, you could go check it out wherever you get your podcast on the Hangman Page episode. He was very much involved with recruiting the Bucks to NXT. And you were someone that he went through on that. And I'm curious, maybe at the time, maybe in the back of his head, he was like, if I get those Hardy boys on board, maybe that's a little leverage tool. And you never know, Matt Hardy. Everything is tactical. What did Michael Hayes think of the Broken Hardys?
I think he thought it was cool because Michael is such an out-of-the-box thinker. You know, he would have probably reeled it in a little more, I would say. But I think he loved the concept behind it. And first and foremost, he's just like, you got over. So, hell yeah. I mean, that's what people are looking for, acts, or, you know, whenever you come up with a certain angle that is going to get yourself over. So he definitely thought that was cool. It was, I think he's like, explain this crazy shit to me. You know, like what is going on? Like, how did you come up with this? You know, so Michael was cool with it. He would have probably reeled it in a little bit to put it a little more reality based. And that's probably the WWE and him speaking as well.
And who is showing Vince this stuff? Because there's no way Vince McMahon is watching Impact Wrestling.
No, I don't know. I don't know if he even saw any Broken Matt Hardy stuff. He just obviously heard because it was so there was so much buzz around the Broken Hardys at that time. And literally, I know he kept telling people, why do fans keep saying delete, delete, delete? Why are we getting these delete chants at our events? And they said, oh, it's the Hardys. It's what they're doing now. It's like very popular.
So you've got a signed deal with WWE right after you leave Impact. Is there any hesitance on your front? You're a family man. You're starting to grow a family. You've got a young kid in Maxwell. Wolfie's on his way at this point.
Yeah.
Is there any hesitance to get back on that WWE schedule?
A little bit. And we spoke with Trips in great lengths about this as well. And we were guaranteed a month off of house shows a weekend off every single month. We would get a weekend off of house shows. And then sometimes if the schedule would allow, we would only do 2 weekends of house shows. So we were going to have a little more time off. We're going to have a little bit more relaxed schedule. And the biggest thing is we still wanted to go hard because we didn't want to be just guys that came into TV and didn't contribute constantly. Like we wanted to be the tag team champs or win the IC title or the US title or the world title, whatever. We wanted to be around enough so that we were like, you know, technically full-time performers. So we could like represent WWE and we could carry a championship and be like players. So that was important to us. So going in, we had an agreement that we would get at least 1 weekend off every single month of house shows. And if possible, we would take 2 off. But they were going to like monitor our schedule and make sure physically we were okay and that we didn't get burned out. And they were, in their defense, they were very good about it the whole while.
Was there any hesitance to bring you back given the state that you left the company in?
No, there wasn't. And I was trusted at that time because I had proven myself. You know, I had street cred and like they just, everybody knew I was like in the best place, you know, the most professional of any professional wrestler that there is. Sorry, Brian Myers. You know, I was really on top of my shit. So, yeah, just coming back then, that was never questioned, you know, which is cool. And it was very important to me personally to go back there and be the most professional. And I hated how I left in the end of 2010 because I just like this. I just, as I've said about Jeff Jarrett, I'm going to put myself in that same boat. I wasn't in the best place in my life. I wasn't in a good place. And I really wanted to go back and redeem myself. And I wanted to be the most professional WWE employee possible over the course of those 3 years and still build on to my legacy. That was my goal returning. And it felt special. Like it felt like I needed to end that chapter on a high note, my WWE run.
So things are going great, right? You got this new contract. You're the Ring of Honor tag champs. Things are awesome in the land of Hardy until they're not, because shit's about to hit the fan a little bit here. So here we go. From the lead story of the March 20th, 2017 Wrestling Observer, the arguments about the ownership of the Broken Hardy gimmick, voted the best gimmick of 2016 in the Observer Awards, led to the Dish Network pulling the plug on the March 10th Ring of Honor 15th anniversary pay-per-view after threatening legal letters from Anthem, the parent company of Impact, and the Fight Network. There was a cease and desist sent regarding the gimmick in which they claimed to own it to not only the Hardys and Ring of Honor, but also to the cable providers. And then the cable providers were the ones that got cold feet. The problem is the letters were sent the day of the show, leaving no time for negotiations, which had to leave Ring of Honor furious about the cancellation, even though they said nothing about it publicly to that point. I'm going to stop there. What do you remember about hearing this, or what do you remember about hearing this cease and desist, I should say, and your initial reactions to that?
The way you painted that, you said, oh, things are going really good until they're not. My mentality never changed at all. I was still in a great place. I was super happy. I know Joe Koff and Ring of Honor, they were afraid. They didn't want to get sued, and that's understandable. And Joe Koff, I had great experiences with him the whole while I was there. I'm pretty easy to get along with. So I have great experiences with most people, I feel like, because I'm willing to play ball with anybody. So they were worried about it. My mentality personally, it was fuck Anthem. I mean, that's kind of where I was. It's just like, especially
fuck the owl.
Well, that was Rebby, and once again, to back that up, I have a great respect for Ed Nordum. He was put into a position which he had no idea about in the beginning, and he was almost manipulated. Dude, like when I played Big Money Matt, obviously, I leaned into the carny aspect of pro wrestling, right? And in reality, I am the furthest thing from a carny when it comes to my personality and just my morals and my ethics. But wrestling really is a carny business. And there were so many people that were like being carny at that time, trying to like, hey, Ed, let us run the show. We'll do this. We'll do that. Hey, Ed, let me run the show. Let me do this. Like, hey, Ed, let me run the show. Do that. I really don't know what to do. And then sometimes I think Ed would admit he got some bad advice. He maybe wasn't listening to the right people, whatever, because I was totally set and planned on staying with Impact Wrestling at that time, and then the Jeff Jarrett thing is what kind of like muddied the waters. And then we were unsure, like, oh, I don't know if this is happening and it's bad here. If we stay, is it going to get worse once they get you locked in? And then the WWE thing ended up happening, right? So we're going there. But like Ed later, I'm so happy I got to talk to him. And then like my wife, once again, anybody that watches this is going to be a diehard Matt Hardy fan before it's all said and done. I feel like, and not to put myself over, but I feel like you're going to know about my life. You're going to understand what's going on, especially from hearing the real side of my personality. But my wife is, she is an intense Boricua, without a doubt. And when she has a vendetta against someone, she goes scorched earth. She is ready to tear everything down, and she does not give a fuck. She is ready to scorch the earth. And that was the case with this Anthem thing. I mean, one thing I got to say, I love her because this bitch goes hard for me.
It came from a good place.
Yeah, it definitely came from a good place. But like I was being politically correct. I was dealing with things. I was speaking with my lawyer, and my lawyer was sure, like, I know you talked about the contracts, and maybe I'll wait until I answer this question, because like you're saying, in your contract, did it state? I know that is kind of like in the notes in this episode, in the outline. It said, does it state like you own your character? And no, my contract was pretty standard. It had some different clauses in it because like I, wasn't completely owned by TNA while I was there. They didn't control my bookings and whatnot. But like my contract in theory said that, whatever character I ended up doing there, it would be theirs. But it also said they're going to provide the arena to wrestle with, wrestle for. They're going to pay for it. They're going to do this. They'll make sure to provide all these things. And my lawyer said, if you paid all these things and we had all the receipts. Yep. I mean, like, we did so much stuff on the Hardy compound during that time that myself and Jeff bankrolled. I mean, we spent tens of thousands of dollars in this Broken Universe stuff at the end of the day, to make sure it was good. And he's like, this is a case. Like, I can win this. Like, they can't hold you that. And I felt confident about it. I spent $50,000 or $60,000, with the lawyers all during that time. And I think I was going to go to court, and I was ready to fight it. And I felt confident we could win. So did my attorneys. And I really did. I had a fleet of attorneys for this. I actually played Big Money Matt legitimately in real life for a minute here. And Reby was just like, man, fuck these guys. Like, why are they dragging? They want to drag this out, make us spend money, whatever, And then she just said one time in a Reby rant, she said, blah, 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 blah. Fuck that out. And then that ended up blowing up publicly. She said, oh, I'm going to get fuck that out t-shirts made. And those t-shirts, they sold we sold 1,000 of those like in 2 days. It was insane. It was like we were pro wrestling tees. It was huge. And once again, telling this story, Ed Nordum, I hope you do get to see this, because after we aired everything out and we negotiated everything, we promised we weren't going to say that, because I wanted Anthem to do well. They had all the best intentions, and they did. They really turned TNA around. They brought it back from a company that was about to go bankrupt, that was about to go out of business, and turned it into something where people could go and make a living and make money, and they could still pursue pro wrestling. They could make a career out of it, a job out of it. And I appreciate that. Anybody who does that. So we did get it all worked out. And I want to say, like, one of the clauses, I think, was that Reby can't say that anymore. She can't promote that anymore, because they understood, I think, how angry and upset she was, So we love that owl. I did a promo. I maybe sent out a tweet as Broken Matt Hardy, how the owl is beautiful and lovely. And I put over the owl real big. And we do. We love the owl. If you're out there right now and you're listening to this, the owl and the Hardys, we get along swimmingly. We get along just outstanding. So make sure to support the owl, support TNA, support Impact, support Anthem, support Ed Nordum, and that is the relationship we end up reaching. And I would much rather be on the same page with someone than, be at odds with someone. So during that time, it was a very interesting time, but it's like, I personally wasn't sweating it. I felt confident in what we'd done and what my attorneys had told me and whatnot. And maybe they would have won it if we'd went there. I guess it was possible. And I see where they're coming from. But once again, Ed said, like in some of our conversations ever, he just was probably getting some bad advice. And if he had to go back and do it differently, he would have. And the reason they ended up letting all that go and just, okay, go ahead. And I also got the trademark and the copyright to Broken Matt Hardy as well, during that time, where they blocked it a little bit, but we still overcame, their block. And I ended up getting it before they dropped everything. And then when they dropped everything, they ended up changing their whole company standpoint.
So I want to get into that. Because that's very important, because
yes,
just as important as the court of law is the court of public opinion.
Yes.
Right. And by you going forward with this and not backing down from this lawsuit,
right,
in a way, whether you intended this or not, and I'm not sure if you did, you can tell me if you did, but this is you leading the charge for a lot of pro wrestlers in the future here.
Yeah, I mean, and that was definitely part of it. I mean, I wasn't thinking long term, like I want everyone to retain their character and their name and their personality and their gimmick or whatever. That wasn't in my mind. I was solely thinking about my battle, and I felt justified, and I felt like I was coming from a good place. And once again, I was correct in my beliefs. But like the court of public opinion, it killed Impact. It was so bad. They were at such a low point from a public support standing. It was insane. And I think that's why they decided to pull the plug. Like, hey, like let's have a handshake. Let's work this out. Let's make things better. And then they decided to change in something that was very refreshing. If someone comes through there and you do a character on a TV, you can have it and go on with it. And it's crazy. There were a lot of people in wrestling that reached out to me and said, thank you for standing up for yourself, because it helped me. And I got to keep this. Exactly. One of them being EC3. He was able to retain his personality because of that. And there were a few other guys.
NXT.
Yeah, there were guys that reached out and said, man, that's so cool that, you showed so much fortitude and like stood up for yourself and, went against the machine, so to say. And, it wasn't necessarily that. I wasn't trying to like,
stick it to the man.
I wasn't trying to stick it to the man. I was just really trying to stand up for myself. And that's kind of been my role in pro wrestling, especially for myself and Jeff. I'm the business guy. And, you know, like if there comes to a situation like that, Jeff's just too nice and he's just like too carefree. Like, oh, okay, well, we can't do it. All right, whatever. You know, that's just kind of like how he is, you know. So it was my job to stand up, and I'm very happy I had my wife to back me up because she goes hard.
You are the business guy, but you've also been the little guy. And I think that helps your perspective on how you go about approaching situations like this. So just for clarification, because this is very important to get into the nitty-gritty on this, Anthem was asking for a negotiated percentage of the revenues generated from the gimmick perpetually as part of the settlement here. So my concern when I hear something like that is WWE is going to get cold feet and they're not going to want to follow through with the contract. Was there any concern from your guys' end that this lawsuit could result in that?
No, we tore that up immediately, John. When that thing came through, we tore that up immediately. That was a no-go. That didn't happen, and that was pitched, but obviously we knew that was unacceptable, and we weren't going to do it. And the funny thing is, I want to say we were at the Ring of Honor tapings. It was the pay-per-view where we did the three-way match. I want to say it.
That's exactly what we're going to get into. So here we go. So on the anniversary show, this is where you get the cease and desist, and Dish pulls it. You're facing the Young Bucks and Rocky Romero and Trent Beretta. The entire match, according to the Observer, is reworked 40 minutes before the show went on the air. That's when the wrestlers got the word that everything had to change and that every single thing from the music to no interviews by the Hardys on the air to anything related to the gimmick, which would have been played up huge in the match, had to be thrown out. Matt fact or Matt fiction?
Matt fiction. I mean, it's just like the thing they killed, I think, was like the music. If I'm not mistaken, we weren't going to use our other music anyway. I don't think we were ever going to do that. But the only thing that I really feel like changed is that we ended up coming to the ring with like outer robes on. We didn't change anything in the match. We did everything the same. Maybe we did try and downplay, you know, like the broken aspects.
Did you find out right before the show?
What's that?
Did you find out like right before the show started?
No, we knew earlier on. We'd had a few hours. I want to say it was like 4 or 5 hours before the show that they got these letters. And I just know myself and Jeff, you know, we're just like, fuck it. No, let's just do it. You know, and I get Ring of Honor's standpoint, without a doubt. I understand where they're coming from, you know, but we were very rebellious during the whole time, and we had a lot of confidence in our standpoint. So, the only thing that I really remember drastically changing was that we didn't wear our robes in our entrance. I know I feel like we still did some deletes. I haven't watched that match back in a while. But like, I feel like I definitely spoke like Broken Matt when I was out there. And I want to say that was in those. I mean, I still kind of did the character, but I feel like they just promoted us more as just the Hardys, as opposed to like Broken Matt and Brother Nero. But the thing I was going to say, shortly after we'd got that letter, and I want to say it was like out on the internet, whatever, a little bit before that match that day, I got a call from Stone Cold, from Steve Austin. And he said, "Hey, what's going on, man? Shit, how you been? What's going on?" He said, What's going on with this deal with the gimmick? He said, you think about taking that to Vince? Like, I love this shit, man. He said, it's fucking different and crazy. He said, it's over like hell. And he was just so cool about shit, the way he was talking. He said, man, that's badass, man. He said, so what's the deal now? I said, you guys are out at Ring of Honor. He said, you think about taking it back to Vince? I said, yeah, we've kind of talked about it a little bit, man. I said, we'll see. I said, it's not really his cup of tea, I don't think, how extreme we were able to go with it in TNA and whatnot. I said, but man, he said, oh, hell, man. He said, that's so great, man. You guys reinvent yourself and doing a new gig. And he said, and the guy over, he said, I love that shit, man. I love out of the box thinking. And that was the hugest compliment.
What an endorsement.
What was so great and so cool. I mean, that's been Steve, the whole while. He's always been so cool and just like open to different stuff. And and he's a big fan of gets it, it's entertainment too at the end of the day. And I know one of the first things he told me from a serious aspect, I remember when I would make comebacks, when I'd get the heat on Jeff and I'd make comebacks, I'd come in and I'd punch. And if guys were bumping and feeding, he's like, man, just think about this. He said, maybe come in and just clothesline them, and take their head off. He said, just to me, It looks a lot more vicious and like legitimate. He said, and the more legitimate you look, the better it is for you. And that's a piece of advice that I always held dear and I always followed as well. Like if I ever am doing something where guys are bumping multiple times in the comeback, it'll be a stiff-ass clothesline where I take their head off as opposed to just like a punch. And it always looks better too. And that came from Stone Cold. That's one of the first pieces of advice he gave me back when Jeff and I were still wearing tights.
Wow, that's awesome. Well, you guys are putting on awesome matches here. That match with those two other teams, it's a street fight, gets 4.5 stars in the Observer. You're putting on killer matches everywhere you guys are going. The gimmick is over, but the Hardys are working smart. They're working hard. You're on a roll. What do you credit all of that to?
Me trying to control Jeff.
Yeah.
Me trying to reel him in a little bit. Plus, in Ring of Honor, like in those matches, the Bucks are so damn good. And I'm still, I got to put the Bucks over. I am buddies with those guys, but the Bucks were so good. I mean, being in there with the Bucks and Roppongi Vice made it very easy on that evening, because once again, we could do the stuff we could do, to the best of our ability. And that there was a lot of stuff that they could do that helped add to the match, where the match seemed even more spectacular than it was, and like we were working hard. But once again, as you said, we were working smart, and I was just trying to make sure Jeff, would just stay very focused in what he would do, because Jeff has this crazy passion that he feels like when he's wrestling, like he's like, no, I have to give the wrestling fans everything. I have to give them everything. But sometimes that's counterproductive and almost self-destructive, because like, obviously, we're almost 30 years deep. In October, we'll be 30 years deep in this. And, just trying to reel him in. That's why, as I explained before in one of our earlier podcasts, I wanted him to do Brother Nero in the first place, just because it would help him work a whole lot smarter and get more mileage, get more longevity out of what he's doing. Because at the end of the day, he is Jeff fucking Hardy, and he's a big star, and people want to see Jeff Hardy. It's not necessarily we're going to be disappointed if we don't see a Whisper in the Wind and a Swanton Bomb and a 1.5 through a table on the outside. I mean, they want to see Jeff Hardy come out and do the juke. They want to see him just be cool, be the charismatic enigma. And that was something I was really stressing on him during that time. And with this WWE run coming back up, it was like a good precursor to getting him in that mindset of like working smart. So I feel like that's what we did throughout this Ring of Honor run.
Dude, all Jeff Hardy needs to do is stand there and people freak out.
No lies detected.
That's the stardom of Jeff Hardy. I got some comments. I think you'll laugh at this. They're like, why do you always tell Matt how big of a star Jeff is? It makes it seem like Matt wasn't a star. I'm like, man, that's not what's happening here. Matt Hardy knows how big of a superstar Jeff Hardy is. Jeff Hardy is an all-time great talent of his generation, as is Matt Hardy. But Jeff just connected in a way that is, there's a handful of people that in a 20-year span can say that they've done, and that's just the reality of it. So,
I mean, Jeff just has this unique factor about him that makes him stand out. It's just like if you just had me on my own, people go, "Oh my God, Matt Hardy is so great, he's so amazing, he's so popular." But it's just, I mean, with Jeff, it's just a whole different level, And it's not that I'll necessarily get those flowers that a lot of people or some people feel I would deserve, but I mean, Jeff is just such a presence in the big scheme of things. And I think for him, it's been hugely beneficial and also hugely detrimental as well. I mean, it's who he is. I mean, Jeff is like no other person on this planet, like he just does not care, and that there's people that are so attracted to that. And they're like, oh my God, I hear this so much from people. And sometimes it's for both of us, but they'll go like, I grew up watching you because like you would wear your hair in ponytails and you would wear this paint and you didn't give a shit what people thought about you. And it helped me accept myself because I felt different or odd or, peculiar or like I didn't fit, but you just didn't care. You just didn't give a fuck, so that really inspired me to accept myself and embrace myself and just be me. He hears that so often, and it is true. But also with that same thing being said, there's also been times throughout his life where him not giving a fuck what anybody else thinks or says is detrimental for him. It just is what it is. He's a very intriguing, unique cat.
One more thing I want to say before we get into WrestleMania week here, because I want to keep running on. In one of Rebby's social media, what's the right word? Soliloquies. She I gotta watch that. Soliloquies. She noted that nearly every notable attribute that makes Broken Matt Hardy was developed by her in a Waffle House. Is there any?
We had a big conversation about Broken Matt Hardy there.
Okay.
Yeah, she did like I want to say we had talked about wearing a robe, and initially the first robe I got was long, and I want to say maybe the robe we had talked about, she maybe called out the first pattern that we were talking about. So there is some truth to that. The hair was definitely her idea, but then I was all for it, and I was all down too. And once again, as we'd said before, that was inspired by Sweeney Todd.
Yep.
And then we started talking about different aspects. I was the one that obviously developed the concept of the essence going from vessel to vessel based off True Blood. And I wanted to act very primal. I wanted to be like an animal. I wanted to bite people. And then also whenever I went out and started speaking like Broken Matt Hardy, I remember when I came back through and everybody in the gorilla position were like, that was good. That was good. And then we walk out of a gorilla and Rebby Gretchen, she said, what the fuck was that? I said, you got to trust me on this one. I want to make this very drastically different. So let's make this work. But she did. I mean, she added a lot to Broken Matt. And once again, she was going very hard for me during that time. And it was in a Waffle House where it was the last thing open. And it's so funny. A girl from Queens, the last place she wanted to eat in the world when she first came to North Carolina was a Waffle House. It was only if it was the only thing open. But then like she half-assed became a fan of the Waffle House and enjoyed it. And it's funny. That happens to people a lot when they come to the South.
She'll never admit that publicly.
Well, you might get
well. Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if she will or not, but I'm telling you, it's the truth. I am the beacon of truth. You should all look.
That is Matt fact.
Yeah.
All right, folks. This is what you're here for. Ready? Let's peel back the curtain on one of the greatest WrestleMania moments of all time. Here we go. 6 days before WrestleMania, WWE announces the planned triple threat Raw tag team title match between the Good Brothers, Enzo and Cass in the Bar, will be a ladder match. How coincidental. Noted ladder match enthusiast Sheamus and Enzo. Clearly, the writing is on the wall here as to what may be happening.
Really? Did you think so?
I mean, I thought so immediately, but I said, well, that ladder match sure came out of nowhere.
Our ladder match was on Saturday, brother.
Oh, don't worry. We're going to get into that too. So there's some red herrings thrown in here purposely, of course. You guys have an immensely busy schedule set for WrestleMania week. March 31st, you're wrestling the Lucha Brothers. April 1st, it's Supercard of Honor against the Bucks in that ladder match that you just referenced. And then you're supposed to have a tailgate party, WrestleMania morning/afternoon leading to the event. Then you got to leave. You got to go back to Cameron, North Carolina. So as we approach WrestleMania week here, does WWE have cold feet at all on anything with the Hardy Boys or the presentation of the character? Have you spoken to Vince McMahon directly about anything? Fill me in on that.
No, they did not have any reservations about us returning. The plan, I had spoke to Hunter regularly through all this, and we were going to return basically as the Hardy Boys. And then I know Triple H, it was his goal to get a broken run at some point. He said, maybe we have 2 runs here. He said, if everything works out and, you smooth things over with those guys, they really weren't sweating it. He said, which I'm sure, it'll work out, whatever. He said, we'll figure something out and do that. And hopefully you can get 2 runs. But the initial plan was to come back as, a WWE classic, the Hardy Boys, as Matt and Jeff, Team Extreme almost, obviously in that ladder match environment. And yes, I had spoken with Vince, and it was a pretty funny conversation.
What do you have to say?
Well, let's go ahead and start talking about the Supercard of Honor and Ladder War, and that's where the Vince conversation comes up.
Okay. Well, first off, before we even get to the ladder war, you told me about this during our infamous Chipotle lunch in Orlando, that the first time that you have a conversation with anyone in the match is on the Thursday before all this. Is that correct?
It is. Well, let me go ahead and talk about how things worked out. So
Okay.
our schedule that weekend was going to be, we were flying in Thursday night. We're going to be working WrestleCon with Michael from Hot Spots. Great guy. Shout out to Michael. Shout out to Hot Spots, taking great care of the Hardys for many, many years. And WrestleCon's a great event. I enjoy doing it. Our initial schedule, we fly in Thursday night. Friday morning, we have autograph sessions all throughout the day. Friday evening, first time ever, Matt Hardy, Jeff Hardy, the Hardys versus the Lucha Bros, Penta and Phoenix. Then Saturday, we were going to Ring of Honor, which was a little bit down the road in Lakeland.
Lakeland, yep.
And we were going to be doing an autograph session that day as well. And then that night, we were wrestling the Bucks of Youth in a ladder wars match. And then Sunday, which no one knew about, well, Sunday first, from 12 to 5, we were doing an Evolve signing during their show where we were just getting big payday, and it was all of House Hardy signing. It was myself, Jeff, Queen Rebecca, Senior Benjamin, Vanguard One was there as well, taking photo ops with people, and obviously King Max was there hanging out. So we were all there doing that, and then we portrayed it like we were leaving then, and then we were obviously going to end up showing up at WrestleMania that evening, and then Monday we're going to be at Raw. So I spoke with Mark Carano, and Mark Carano, who obviously he's not there now, but Mark Carano had started right around the time Jeff and I started. And one of his first gigs was like doing third-party appearances and like either being with the guys and supervising or either driving them to the town. And there were so many times where he would, end up getting a car. Hey, guys, I got us a car. I'll drive you to the town. He would drive us around. So like we had a pretty good relationship with him, right? So we knew him from back in the day. And then we got to the point as time went on through all those years, my first run there was obviously almost 14 years. So knew him pretty well during those 14 years. And we got to the end, towards the last few years, everyone's like, hey, Gimmick, what's going on, Gimmick? We'd call each other Gimmick. And I'll never forget that day that he goes, hey, what's going on, Gimmick? He says, oh, we're back in business, huh? I said, yeah, we're good. And he said, well, here's what we're going to do. And I ran this schedule by him. He said, what we're going to do is we'll get you a different flight. We'll fly you in Thursday morning. And then Thursday evening, we're going to take you to someplace to talk to the guys about the match. And none of the guys know you're going to be in the match. We're totally kayfabing everybody. They're not going to know until you show up. It's like, okay, that seems a little extreme, but okay, I get it in the era of the internet and whatnot. So we set that up. He arranges the travel, and he specifically did the travel because we kept we didn't put this in the travel department. Like writers didn't know about it. Like there was a handful of people that knew about it because they really tried to keep this contained. And we had done our part since the beginning. Like for me, it was, it was very easy, just kind of ignore it. Or no, we're doing Ring of Honor. We really enjoy Ring of Honor. We want to be the greatest. We have the biggest contract in Ring of Honor history because we're at the top of our game. And we want to have the longest Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championship run, that we can possibly have and whatnot. And I remember Jeff was doing some publicity for Ring of Honor. And he said, yeah, man, no, we're not going to be at WWE because man, we had to take, if we do end up doing it, it would take, weeks and months to get like our physicals and cleared. Like, I don't even know if I could get cleared, whatever. And I remember he did the interview. I said, why did you linger on so much when you were talking about that answer? He said, I don't know, man. I just hate lying. It's so funny. And he said, I just can't wait till the shit's over and we do WrestleMania. I hate lying. God, it was so funny. He was so remorseful about, working the fans and
he's
keeping
a teddy bear, man.
He really is. So we fly in that Thursday morning. Mark Carano did the travel, which was, he kept saying, he said, you gimmicks are lucky. He said, this is way below me now. I'm a big deal. I'm talent relations. And he said, but I'm going to do your travel because we're keeping this, close to our chest. And we fly in that Thursday morning. We go outside. There he is. Picked us up in the car. They drive us off, and he's in the back. Said, "Oh, what's going on?" Hugs and greet. And it's so funny, like in pro wrestling, like when you work one place and you go back, even though it's been years, it's just like you never left, and you just do business as usual. It's so crazy how that's happened on a couple of occasions, for me with WWE and also returning to Ring of Honor. It's just like, you're just so happy. It's like a big family reunion. Everybody's like excited to see one another again. So we get in the car and we're driving over to the location. And that day I had heard later from the ladder match contestants that they told them all the WrestleMania matches were going to be rehearsed in the WrestleMania hotel where they were staying. They'd rent out a room and there's a ring in there and they kind of talk about stuff, they game plan and whatnot. And they said, look, guys, we can't have it at the hotel because they won't allow ladders in the hotel in this room. And they're like, what? That's the excuse they gave. They said the hotel won't allow us to bring like big ladders in. They're just so big. Like, we can't bring all these ladders in the hotel. So we've got to go over to the match in a back room garage by the Performance Center. It was something along those lines. It was like a storage area, garage / area.
It's an industrial park over there by the Performance Center.
Is that what it is? Because I didn't know. They literally just drove us in. So they send them over there to go over the match. And then we're driving over there with Mark Carrano. He said, all right, guys. He said, well, let's talk about this. Like, all right, let's you guys know who you're working with, right? We're doing the ladder matches. He said, yeah. I saw when you guys announced the ladder match on Raw. I said, well, he said, do you guys know, you know Gallows, right? He said, you guys know Carl Anderson, the Good Brothers? I said, dude, I met them on Indy a few weeks back. And so we had a great time. And, we got along famously, already. We were good. And he said, yeah, they're good brothers. He said, they're really easy to work with. They get along with everybody great. He said, they're a lot of fun. He said, you're going to love working with them. He said, you know Sheamus, right? And he said, you know Cesaro? And I said, yeah, I mean, I know Sheamus. I said, I worked with him right when he first started in WWE. I said, I know him. I said, I feel like I've met Cesaro, but I don't know him well. I've never worked with him. And he said, oh, well, they're he said, they're both really, really good. He said, but he said, they're probably going to be upset. I think they think they're winning this deal in the tag title. So they're going to be shocked whenever you guys pull up and there's a fourth team and they're not going over. And he said, but they'll be fine. He said, they'll bust our ass and work real hard. And he said, do you guys know Enzo and Cass? I said, no, not at all. He said, I've never met him. He said, oh God. He said, they are gimmicks. He said, they're gimmicks. He said, but they'll be fine. He said, just roll with them. That's how he described everybody as we're pulling up into the arena. And then we pull into the arena and we're in an elongated SUV, tinted windows. They're in total kayfabe mode, right? And then we pull into the arena and like Dean Malenko, I know he's the agent, he's in the ring, and they get in there and Mark Carrano gets out and says, hey guys, I just wanted to make an announcement. Now there are 4 teams. I almost going to do 5-star. There are 4 teams in the ladder match. Let me introduce to you the team that is going to be competing with you. And then we start to open the doors and get out. And I hear Carl Anderson say at the top of his lungs, Brother Nero, I knew you'd come. We get out and they fall out laughing. And then and Enzo and Cass like, oh shit, yeah. And just we got out and everyone's like, whoa, what the fuck?
And what about Sheamus and Cesaro? What was their reactions?
They were a little more straight faced, but they were cool. They were ready to do business and work. It's one of those things, man. Cesaro is like the smoothest guy alive. I worked with him a little bit on a European tour as well. Whenever we had these tag matches and stuff, like God, he is so good, so talented. Not sure what he's doing right now, but he is. I know he's very underrated, because like whatever it is that Vince or WWE may have given him a hard time about going all the way with him. Like, I think he's super talented and he's so good and so smooth and so easy. And Sheamus, I've always got along good with Sheamus, but man, Sheamus, it's a fight in the ring, man. He's like Stone Cold, man. It's very aggressive, very animalistic. If you're in the ring with him, if you're getting in the ring with him, you're in for a fight that day because he's going to bring it.
I know you've gotten to know Enzo pretty well over the years. Was he marking out, getting a chance to work with you?
Well, yeah, they told us their story afterwards. He especially did. And once again, I want to say this about Enzo and Cass. I am so proud of both of them. I just worked with them recently, as you know, in Northeast Wrestling. I feel like it's very hard. It happens to most people in the industry, like especially if you're at WWE, especially if you start at WWE right from the jump. You almost like see a little bit of the lights too much, and you almost buy into your hype too much. I mean, because that's what they they push their athletes to believe they're superstars. You're not a WWE wrestler, you're a WWE superstar. And they give you first class service on everything. They drive you to places in limos, and they do it right. They do it big. So I feel like they got a little caught up in the moment probably once they first started there, especially Enzo. But they're both in such good places now, and sometimes leaving WWE and like losing that superstardom and that feeling of being a superstar and like coming back down to reality is what some people need to kind of make them like rethink stuff and like, hold up, balance is very important in this. Like you need to be a pro wrestler and be larger than life, but you also have to remember to be whatever your real name, government name is. You have to be that person too. If you don't have that balance, things will go bad. So Enzo told us later, like he grew up a huge Hardy Boys fan. He said the only time he's ever watched back the entrance of that match is whenever I posted it before our match in Northeast Wrestling just a couple weeks back. He said that was just so special, and I was there, and I was so excited to be in that moment. And he was like, "Oh, thank you for allowing me to be part of that moment where you came back." And it's just like me and Kaz, we were just so excited and hyped for that. We're so happy to be in the match. So big props to those guys. I really hope both Enzo and Cass get another opportunity to do it on the highest level, because they're both in really good places, and they're both deserving of another shot right now.
People forget how white hot they were too at that time. They were immensely popular.
They, especially in NXT, and I remember seeing them. I've always tried to follow the business wherever I am at, wherever I'm working at. I try and keep up with everything else. I think that's important if you're trying to make a career out of this gig. But like, I remember seeing them in NXT, just how people were with every single line of their, catchphrase and their shtick. And whenever we worked them in Northeast Wrestling, they did it again, and people were with every single line of it. And we came out, and there were people chanting Delete. There were people chanting Brother Nero. There were people chanting Hardy. There were also people chanting, "How you doing?" They were into the whole deal. And it was so, so cool. It was so cool to see them work together as well. It made me happy on the inside.
That's awesome. So you're putting together a match 3 days before the actual match happens.
Yes.
Are you concerned at all that like someone's going to forget a spot? Because this is not just a standard triple threat or fatal four-way. You're working a ladder match here. Is there any concern that someone might just not remember what you're going over? Because this is 3 days in advance.
Yeah, I mean, it's a long time out, obviously, to kind of be talking about things, but it was the right call. We came out and we got together a good game plan, a good outline, and we kind of knew what we were doing. And I liked what we had. We didn't have a lot of time, and man, that entrance was so long. So they said the entrances are going to take up quite a bit of time. So we didn't have a lot of in-ring time. So we were just going to make the most of it and try and play everyone's greatest hits in this match and have some good spots and tell a good story in the limited amount of time that we had. Because at the end of the day, what this was going to be about was the Hardys returning and the Hardys reclaiming World Tag Team Championships. I mean, that's at the end of the day, this is what this was about. I'll never forget, there was a point where we were kind of talking about eliminating everyone, where everyone takes like a big bump to be out of the match for the remainder of the match. And I'll never forget when Enzo was talking about it. He says, "Oh, what do you want to do, Jeff? What do you want to do? Murder me. Whatever you want to do. Murder me. I'm in here with the Hardy Boys. Just murder me," which is one of my favorite memories of that day as well. And we put together a match. It felt pretty good. It felt solid. We both had a couple moments. So happy I got to do that twist of fate off the top of the ladder to Carl Anderson. We became great friends during our time there. We both have gaggles of children, so that's something that we had in common. And he's a good brother as well. And then Jeff had that moment where he was on top of the ladder and he jumped off and put Sheamus and Cesaro through 2 ladders or whatever the scenario was. It was, just another insane moment. Was it tables or ladders?
It was through that. We'll talk about it in just a minute here. But WWE is leaning heavily into this. That week, they coincidentally post you versus Jeff at WrestleMania 25 to social, saying that tables were broken. So we are leaning hard into this. Let's get to the Saturday event. Ring of Honor sets an all-time attendance record for Supercard here with 3,500 fans in Lakeland to just see you guys headline against the Young Bucks. That's truthfully what people were there for. That is the big sell of this pay-per-view. And is you guys versus the Young Bucks with the titles on the line. This is an insane match. This is one of the most insane matches of your career, and we will talk about it in long form at some point. I'd like to even watch this match, truthfully, back with you guys.
Yeah, I would too.
This is a 4.5-star match. The spot that everybody talks about is when Jeff used the ladder to knock Matt Jackson off. And do I have that correct?
It was Nick. It was Nick.
It was Nick. Sorry,
Nick is the Jeff. He does the crazy shit.
That's a very good point.
Matt is the Matt, and Nick is the Nick.
Works
Nick
out.
Is the Jeff.
Yes. So Nick goes. It's so okay. Nick jumped off a small ladder to a bigger ladder, which got tipped over. He lands on the top rope and did a springboard.
This is the spot because I do remember this very vividly. Nick is going up trying to get the titles, and I grab the ladder and I start tilting it over and pushing. And there's another ladder beside it that had been there from an earlier spot, and he gets pushed over. He gets on this ladder, and this ladder's tilting and falling as well. And then he jumps off onto the ropes, lands. And then jumps off, does a swanton on the Jeff, puts him through a table.
Insanity.
Yeah. Wow.
Who came up with
that? He did. And I remember that's one of the few things we were able to run through earlier in the day. We had that day we got to the arena, we had some time, and they wanted to start the autograph session early because once again, that was a point where the Hardys were red hot again. And there's been certain times in our career where it's just been insanity, and we were red hot. And there've been so many pre-sales. They wanted our autograph signing to start earlier than the other ones because they wanted to make sure to get through all the line. So we had like a limited amount of time, and we were kind of talking about the things we were going over. And we knew we had a pretty good chunk of time to do all this. I want to say like we had with entrances and everything, maybe 35 minutes is kind of like what we were allotted. But that was one of the spots that Nick it came up with. And I like that, you know, both the Bucks are great at this. They'll come up with like crazy spots, much like Jeff would as well, Nick especially. And then we went over that ladder, and there were a couple times we tried it where he didn't catch it, but there were a couple times we did it and he did catch it. So fortunately, when the red lights were on, he was at his best. Yeah, awesome. and he killed it. So it worked. So that match was. It's funny because we had time to go over, but because we started our autograph session so early that day, we didn't have time to go over everything. So there were still things that we were putting together after autograph signing during the show, right up until we were going out that we were going to do. So I remember there was a lot of pressure on us during that match.
Well, thank you for clarifying the spot because there's so much stuff that happened in it, and I wanted to eloquently describe it, but it is a must-watch match. It's the best match of that weekend, period, across any promotion. It is a true passing of the torch match from the Hardys to the Bucks of Youth. It is an exceptional ladder match that you should go out of your way to watch if you haven't yet. So that's it. That's the Hardy Boys weekend. They got a party the next day, some signings, everything's great. Except for the fact that that's not the case at all. You are going to be debuting at Camping World Stadium, the former Citrus Bowl in Orlando for WrestleMania. So what time do you have to get to the stadium at, and how hard is it to stay hidden?
Well, first and foremost, whenever we flew in, we had all of House Hardy at that time. Myself, Jeff, Rebby, Senior Benjamin, Maxwell. We took a photo
at the airport.
At the airport when we flew in on our way out, and we were all like waving goodbye, saying, "All right, thanks, Orlando. Thanks for a great weekend." Pre-planning what we were going to do once again to throw out one last red herring to try and throw people off our trail. So we went and did the signing. It was 5 hours, and it was intense, and it was busy the whole while from beginning to end. Whenever we're at this Evolve signing, it was intense. It was great, and there was a point where we almost got busted because WWE sent a vehicle to come get us after this thing that was going to just stay with us the whole while. But and I think this was reported, or a couple of people took photos of this. I don't even know if you were able to research this, if this was in the notes. I don't think it was. But there was a car that was waiting outside for us after this Evolve appearance at 5 o'clock, and they put in there like WWE Hardys. And there were a guy, and I know they like reamed this guy out afterwards too, because like somebody said, "Hey man, like, actually this is how it happened." Someone said, "Hey man, someone just took a picture of a car that's waiting like outside in the parking lot that says like WWE Hardys on it." I'm like, what the fuck? They said they just put it on social media. And I remember I called like Mark Carano and whatever's like, hey, what the fuck, man? What is going on? Like, make sure to tell this guy to take that out of his deal. Just whenever we walk out, have him get us in. And he did. But there was a little bit of like an alarming situation where we thought that was going to get out a lot bigger than it did. I think we minimized it though to a degree.
So I don't think I've ever told you this. And I don't think I've really even talked about this at length in public ever, really. But I was auditioning with WWE at that time. And I was at the JW Marriott, which was where the company was staying for that event, that massive hotel. And I was there the morning of WrestleMania. And I'd be lying to you if I didn't look around a little bit, try to keep my eyes peeled just to see if I saw maybe a baby Maxwell running around or a Rebecca appearance. I had my eyes open, Matt Hardy, but I didn't see anybody. So you guys concealed all that. You weren't staying with them, correct?
We weren't staying
at the WWE hotel.
No. I mean, that's why they told them the hotel banned.
Yes.
Ladders were contraband at the hotel. They were banned from being in the hotel because they didn't want anywhere near there.
So this van,
fans were there.
So this van takes you to the venue.
No, it takes us to our hotel.
Oh,
we were staying at the WrestleCon hotel. And but before we get past this, I want to move back to the Supercard of Honor real quick. So we're there doing the Supercard of Honor, and as I said, we're going over stuff in the ring earlier in the day, and we have this long, monstrous line, and we're starting early because they wanted to get through everybody that had pre-bought tickets. So earlier in that day, I remember like right when we get to the venue, Michael Hayes calls me. P.S. Hey, what's up, Michael? He said, hey, look, I know to call you because you're the like leader and shit. Like, don't let brother Nero go out there and kill himself tonight. Okay. Like, make sure he doesn't kill. I know this is a ladder match. Like, but fuck it. It's not important. Tomorrow's WrestleMania. That's the real ladder match. Make sure he doesn't kill himself tonight. It's okay. I will do as much as I can to make it controlled chaos. All right. I'll take care of him. I'll try and keep him smart. I said, but he is unpredictable. He might go into business for himself out there. He said, oh, look, he said, I'm telling you, Vince is worried one of you guys are going to get hurt and it's going to get fucked up. Make sure it doesn't happen. Okay. So, all right. Thanks, Wrestling Daddy. I'll talk to you later. Okay. All right. You promised me? Come on. Fucking take charge. Take control. All right, Michael. I'll talk to you later. About an hour later, we're talking about the match a little bit. Look at my phone. The man with 3 H's. Hey, what's going on, Paul? How you doing? Hey, man. I just want to make sure, like, you're going all over Jeff's spots, right? Like, you're making sure Jeff's like, he's not going to do anything stupid, right? Like, tomorrow's like big WrestleMania, and we got big plans on that. Like, it's going to be cool, right? You're kind of, you guys just having a smart, easy ladder match, right? He said, let the Young Bucks do all this shit. They're young and healthy, right? Let them do everything. I said, yeah, of course, man. It's gonna be good. I got it. I promise. We're gonna take care of them. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll be good to go. All right. I'll talk to you later. Start going over some more stuff. We're just going over the thing. I remember we just gone over the thing with Nick where we push, boom, boom, lands this. And just like, oh, man, maybe I could do that. Maybe I could go off the top through a table back. I said, oh, well, why don't you just get back dropped out instead? I think that'll be easier. It'll be right there, whatever. And then I see my phone again. The man with 3 H's pick it up. Hey, what's going on, man? Yeah, we're just finishing up with this match. We got to go in a little bit because we have a long line. We're going to start an autograph session early. He says, hey, Vince just wanted to bust you. He says, look, fuck. Make sure Jeff doesn't do anything fucking stupid and cripple himself tonight. I know how he is. Fucking reel him in. All right? Tomorrow's WrestleMania. Damn it. Yes, sir. I got it. It'll be good. I promise. All right? All right. See you tomorrow. Be smart. Bye. I mean, that's basically, I was getting called. I was getting on me. Never Jeff. They knew better.
I like that it went up the chain, too.
Yeah. That's my favorite part about it. What a great story. It went up the chain the whole while. And they were going to make sure that, I mean, they were adamantly trying to send a message to me like, don't let this motherfucker kill himself.
When did you tell Jeff about all that?
After the match. I didn't want to fuck with his head at all. I just said, let's be smart, man. We'll get a little bit of you, but let's have some controlled bedlam, man. Controlled bedlam.
Incredible. So, Okay. So let's fast forward back to Sunday now.
Yeah.
You guys have gone to the venue. They put you in a bus out back, I assume, right? In a little tour bus and keep you hidden away. That's what they typically do.
Yeah. Here's what we do. So we finished the Evolve signing, right? And we drive back to the hotel, and the guy drops us off. We walk in. I got to add this. This is a good little note. So we walk in the hotel and walk through the lobby, and it's myself, Jeff, Senior Benjamin, who's on the road with us, making towns, signing all the autographs, making all the money, and Rebby. And as we're walking through the lobby of the hotel, going back to our room, we pass Jeff Jarrett and a couple guys, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" And you can just see Rebby going, and she's wanting to fight, like, say something, motherfucker, say something. And then he says, "Hey, what's going on? What's going on?" And I'm sure in his mind, because he told Ed, he said, "No, they're not going back to WWE. You know, don't worry about it. They're just doing this Ring of Honor. They're not doing shit." And internally, I feel like I'd heard from a few people around me, like, see, I told you guys they weren't going to be returning at WrestleMania. Like, I knew it. And I feel like Jeremy Borash and a whole bunch of guys were like together watching in a room. And I feel like whenever we came out later that night, Jeff Jarrett was like, because it was almost like we were clashing at that time, right? It was like Hardy's versus Jeff. It was Matt versus Jeff. I mean, Matt versus Jeff Jarrett, yes. You know, as opposed to Matt and Jeff versus Jeff Jarrett, because Jeff is just like, whatever. Jeff is just, he's in his own world all the time. And we walk by Jeff, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" I said, "Hey, man, how's it going?" And we just walk up to the room, and I know that we're going to be there for about an hour, and then we're going off to the arena. So I remember watching the pre-show on my computer and watching the pre-show, like, holy shit, like, what a big arena. And I said, this ramp looks pretty big, whatever, you know, but like, you don't really get a perspective for it when you're not there. So then they call us and say, "Okay, well, the guy, we want you to come now." So we leave our hotel after the show starts. I want to say, do you know what match we were? I want to say we're 4 or 5, something along those
right now. I mean, I was there all freaking day, and it was the longest day of my life. And I just remember by the time you guys got out, it was like, probably with the pre-show matches, it was probably like 7 matches in. Let's see. You guys were the 7th match of the night. I called it. You were 7th match of the night. You were after the women's fatal 4-way.
Yeah, but how many matches were on the actual WrestleMania card?
So you were the 4th match of the actual.
Yes, that's what I was saying. It was 4 or 5, I remember. So we left our hotel after the WrestleMania main card started, just to give you a perspective of the time. So we leave after the WrestleMania main card has started. We drive. We get there. And they had asked us to during that week, and we had done this on Thursday, I think, when we flew in early. They said, make sure you get hoodies. They said, we want to get hoodies. So whenever we get you to the arena, we want to sneak you in so nobody can see you. So hoodies, all covered up as much as possible. Just get some black hoodies and just wear all black, whatever. Dude, this is a funny detail. You don't really think about it, but like, we're in Orlando, Florida in the spring. There's not like a ton of hoodies for sale. You know, it's not like a hoodie world. It's not like we're in Wisconsin, or, you know, we're in Ontario, or we're in Maine. You know, there's not a ton of hoodies going on. The only hoodies we could all find that day that we had to go out and go shopping, they were all pink hoodies. So we all had pink hoodies that we're rocking, which is so funny, which is such a funny anecdote to the story. So we get there, we drive over, we put on our pink hoodies, we like take our string and tighten them up real big, and they go, "Okay, here you go, here's the bus." Boom, they take us to the little bus we're in, and they lock us in there. Nobody saw us whenever we got to that bus. And now the second match, I want to say, is in the ring. Let's say, okay, we're going to bring all the guys in. Here comes Enzo Kaz. Here comes Sheamus Cesaro. Here comes the Good Brothers. We once again talk through the match. Okay, time for these guys to go to Gorilla. See you guys out there. They go to Gorilla to do their deal. They go to Gorilla. They start making their entrances. I want to say it was right before. So they go to Gorilla. They're about ready to start making their entrances. They said, "Okay, guys, let's go." So then
there's video of this, by the way. This was captured by WWE cameras.
Yeah, they did. So we once again put on the hoodies. We run. Rebby has Maxwell strapped to her. She's also super pregnant with Woofy. He's due in a couple months. And we run up these 3 flights of stairs. I remember seeing Nikki Bella on the way up the stairs. "Oh my God, Hardy, yay!" And then we run up these stairs. We get there. We keep passing. And I remember we got in there, and I remember seeing Sasha and Bailey right after their match. They were in there like, "Oh my God!" And they're like going crazy, flipping out. And then we're just in there. And I remember seeing it was Vince. Cena was there. Shawn Michaels was there, and, you know, hugs all the way around. "Hey, what's up? What's up? What's up?" And then I remember we had a moment, and Jeff was like, oh. Jeff like has this thing where he like starts freaking out, being nervous or whatever. You know, I'm just trying to, it's cool, man. We got it. It's going to be good. And I remember Michael Hayes said, hey, you've done this before. Like, chill out, like let it go. And there's that famous thing. And it almost became like a thing of Jeff's where before he goes out to the ring in a big moment, he goes, woo! Whatever it may be, like a yell or whatever. I probably have pissed people off in the hotel right here that I'm in. So he let that out. But it was a very cool moment. And the wild thing about all this was like, it was just so back to back to back. There was no time to like stop and think about things.
And that's your first time seeing Vince, Michael Hayes, some of these top guys in such a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
You don't even get to say hi.
And it was cool. I mean, Vince, big embrace. And once again, what just a powerful character he is, and Vince McMahon, is the greatest promoter to ever live. And I obviously am very grateful for him. And without him, I wouldn't be who I am right now. I wouldn't be sitting here with you right now. So I will always have lots of love and appreciation for him, without a doubt. And then Michael Hayes, same. Always be grateful. I wouldn't be who I am today as far as the caliber of professional wrestling and the caliber of mind that I have without Michael Hayes. So I'll always be grateful to him for that as well. So it was great. I mean, we literally saw those guys for like, 30 seconds. It was great to share a little moment with them. It was very special. And even seeing Sean and just like seeing Sean and Cena and like, oh man, it's like so cool what you guys have been doing. We're so happy you're back. Welcome home, welcome home, welcome home. There was so much of that. And it was very true.
So then the three teams rather, are in the ring. They're ready to start the match. The New Day come out. They're the hosts of WrestleMania. They are in full gear. Just one more red herring. They're in full gear. They say a fourth team has been added. They start walking to the ring. And there it is. The iconic Loaded Hardy Boys theme.
It was incredible, man. The New Day, I can't put them over enough for the job they did there. And once again, if that I want to say it was Vince's idea. I can't be 100% certain, but whoever came up with the idea to send New Day out and have them in their gear. Once again, I made sure to thank them for actually getting into their gear because they've just been the host of the show.
Yeah, they didn't wrestle on the show. So
they did the gig, they got into the gear. And I mean, that made it work perfect where people were like, oh, wow, it's going to be New Day. It's going to be New Day. But it was so cool when they said, oh, there's a fourth team. And just to me, it's so flattering that you hear so many delete, which is so cool, which is something we built somewhere elsewhere was so popular there, and it taken the wrestling world by fire. It's so cool, so flattering, so humbling, and just makes me so happy. And that was a really happy moment. And Rebby said one of the sweetest things ever, like, oh, it almost makes me want to cry when I say it. But like, she's like, oh my God, I'm just like so happy for you. And I can tell you're so happy. And just all these guys are so proud of you. And you guys are getting this big moment. Like, I'm so proud of you. I remember she'd said that, like she said after the match, but it was like, I could tell the way she looked at me and the way she was reacting. She was there in Gorilla, in this insane moment where like, it's got to be too even overwhelming for her seeing all these, insanely powerful people in pro wrestling. And they're like greeting us so happy, like a family reunion in Gorilla. And then like literally the music's hitting and that reaction. But the New Day, they did a great job. And their reaction when we came out would just helped us out so much and added so much to the moment. I can't thank those guys enough. I love all those guys. And then we come out and just, it's so different when you haven't been there during the day to like walk out and see the stadium, or you haven't been there to peek out through the curtain and see the crowd and see like this, this sea of humanity. And for us to walk out into that and just see this, I mean, it's like you couldn't see the whole arena is how it felt. And still to this day, it was so overwhelming. It was like such a sensory overload. It felt like a dream. It still feels surreal in many ways. Like, this sounds kind of crazy, but this is what I'm going to compare it to. Like if you've ever been having a dream and kind of like around the edges of your dream, it's almost like fuzzy. And it's like, whoa, like this is intense. This is crazy. Oh my God, it's surreal. This can't be happening, even though it's a dream and you're not sure. That's how that moment felt. It felt like fuzzy around the edges and it felt surreal. It felt like a dream. And I remember going down that ramp and it was just so long and there were so many people doing delete. And there's times like where I would go like I couldn't see all the people, but then I would like focus in, like laser focus on one person going delete, or I'd focus on one person going, I mean, it felt like that walk as long as it was, and I started doing a jog because I knew we had to get to it because our time was so limited as it was. That moment of that entrance, and I have goosebumps. I have goosebumps talking about it right now. That moment, it was probably 90 seconds. I mean, in my head, I can see it also was 15 minutes because I saw so many massive shots of just humanity and people like wigging out. And then I would see like those tight shots, people going, Hardy, Hardy, or, delete, yes. I mean, I saw all these different personalities. It was just unreal. Really, honest to God, the most surreal entrance I've ever made in my life. I go back to WrestleMania 17 where there's a look on my face when I'm wearing my Freddy Krueger shirt is what I coined it as. And Michael Hayes said, make sure to take in this entrance. You're not going to get a ton of these during your career, and I remember trying to take in that entrance and it was special. And I realized like, well, it's a big moment. Like, who knows? A lot of people don't get one of these moments, much less multiple moments. And we've been so lucky and so blessed to have been given multiple moments. But this moment at WrestleMania 33 was without a doubt the greatest entrance I have ever been a part of.
I was in the crowd. I was with a friend, and it was, I had a feeling it was coming, but even so, it was so overwhelming for me. And obviously I wasn't alone. There were 70,000 other people there. It was very overwhelming but especially for me, Matt, because I've told you at length just how much the Hardy Boys meant to my wrestling fandom and me growing up, and seeing the things that you overcame personally and being witness to that, man, it was like so fulfilling in every way as a fan. And I can't even imagine the fulfillment as a performer, as the person who this idea started almost 3 years prior to that. This broken character that we started this series with laid the groundwork for this iconic moment. I've covered the NBA playoffs, the Daytona 500. I'm so fortunate to have been in person for so many amazing moments. For me, there are two moments in my timeline that I'll remember for the rest of my life being in person for: the streak ending and the Hardy Boys return at WrestleMania. It was one of the most impactful things that I've ever witnessed with my eyes. And I'm not saying that hyperbolically. I genuinely mean that. And it was perfect. It was perfect. Nothing could have been done differently that would have made this any better, Matt.
I agree. And thank you for those kind words.
Of course.
It was. I mean, it was a term that I like to say a lot. It was practically perfect. And I would even maybe go stretch further and say it is perfect.
Even Kofi and Woods doing the juke, the Jeff Hardy stuff, like in the back, it's perfect. And you're rushing to the ring. Jeff is taking it in. Jeff is slowly taking his time on the ramp, and I could see her like, we got to get our shit in. Let's go.
So, welcome to my life, John Alba.
We'll break down the match in long form at some point down the line, but it's a fun little match. Like you said, nothing super crazy, but the big moments come at the end where you hit the twist of fate off the ladder on Anderson.
In ring, we just had like 10 and change, I think, whenever I just looked over the notes, right? I mean, it was like 11. So, I mean, that's not a lot of time to like build
a ladder match.
Sort of amazing classic ladder match, especially with the 4 teams, because you've got a lot of bodies in there.
But you get the great twist of fate spot in. People pop big for that. And then Jeff Hardy, man, welcome home. This man who has had all these iconic moments. This might be his most dangerous thing he's ever done in a WWE ring, or not even in the ring. It was on the outside because there was wind blowing up there. He's outdoors here, and he gets on this massive ladder. He stands at the very top and does a massive swanton through Sheamus and Cesaro through ladders. It is a spectacle. Matt, here is the christening moment. This is why I wanted to climax our series with this very moment. You helped conceptualize this broken Matt character. It took you to a new level, and here you are at WrestleMania climbing that ladder and securing the tag team championship for you guys. Where does that moment stand for you in the realm of your career?
Man, I mean, if you watch all the people in the background during that moment, just that the excitement and just the love and just the energy is just off the charts, which just adds so much more to that moment. I've said this all the while during the pandemic era. I don't think pro wrestling is pro wrestling without fans, because they're a huge part of the show and the entertainment. And in that moment, the fans made it exponentially greater. And that moment is definitely one of the top. It's definitely a top 5, maybe even top 3 moment of my career, without a doubt. I mean, just considering the personal ordeals myself and my brother went through, and the things we went through to rebuild ourselves and redeem ourselves, so to say. And then just going, for me, going to Ring of Honor, where when I first started in Ring of Honor, I questioned myself, like, if I can't do this how I used to when I was, 20, 25, 30, 35, can I still do this? And once again, whenever we do an episode with Adam Cole, I feel like just being in the ring with him helped me out a lot with that. Like, okay, I can do this. I just have to do it a little bit different, and just kind of retraining myself to work a different way. And then going to TNA and creating Broken Matt Hardy and the Broken Universe, and putting a different spin on things, and making it a viral sensation, and getting over all of that, being rewarded with that WrestleMania 33 return and returning home to WWE, which, will forever be known as my home, because it is where we started, and it is where we made a name for ourselves, and they gave us our first true opportunity. It was really gratifying and really special. And it was almost just like things had come full circle. And for me, I was just excited to be back, and I was excited to achieve as much as I possibly could over the course of the 3 years. And I knew what I was in for. I was very familiar with WWE. I know how the system works, and I was cool with that. It was very important for me as a human being to go there, and, like, if this was going to be my final chapter of WWE work, to make sure to leave my greatest mark possible, and also be the best employee possible.
I know we've gone a little long here, but do you have a couple minutes to answer a few fan questions? Let's do it.
Yeah, we're good, man. I have plenty of time today, and we can do this.
Fantastic, because we got a lot of fan questions here for you. This is the pinnacle, man.
Yeah, even before you say that, I want to say this. To everyone who was there that day at WrestleMania 33, we got so much love over that moment, and I've heard about it so much throughout the years. I mean, there were people around the world sending me videos of them watching it at home, or in sports bars, or wherever they watch pay-per-views. I mean, from in Africa, in Japan, in Australia, and just
wild.
It was insane. And just the impact of that clip. I mean, I just can't be thankful enough to a supportive fan base of pro wrestling, and even more specifically, myself and my brother. I thank all you guys so much. Like, I couldn't have lived out my dream without people like wrestling fans supporting me. And sometimes, I'll work the gimmick, especially if I'm a heel, and give them a hard time. But, like, there's nobody out there that has more love for wrestling fans than me. And people who've met me in, real time, real life know that. But I am just so appreciative of everybody that gave us so much love on that day in the arena and around the world. It was unbelievable. It was really like it was like a fairy tale ending / beginning, that WrestleMania 33 return. And I just have so much love and gratitude for everyone who was so supportive and so energetic, and just showed us so much damn love that day. It was incredible and amazing. And it's one of the highlights of my career, as I'd said, but also my life. I mean, it was really a special moment, because it was just like, we did it. Like, we became men. We got our shit together, and we came back to WWE. And, especially me personally, I was a man after having kids. Maxwell, I say, like, Maxwell is always going to be the kid that made me a man. But as far as my pro wrestling career goes, I feel like that moment of returning at WrestleMania 33, I was officially an adult man in pro wrestling. And I'm very grateful for everyone who was so supportive that day.
I'm a big proponent of not taking your phone out at concerts, at shows, and just breathing in the moment, because someone else will take a picture, someone else will take a video, and it is in my head that moment. I turned to my buddy Jordan, who was sitting next to me, and I just said to him, "Holy fuck," and just said, that was it. We didn't talk. We just watched and observed, and it was amazing. And Matt, it's like it's the culmination of all those little things we talked about at the beginning of this Broken series. The very little things leading up to the feud with EC3, the double turn into you becoming broken, and then the Brother Nero little idiosyncrasies to the Expedition of Gold. All of these things led up to this moment. And without one of those things happening, this moment would not have been possible.
Yeah, correct. It really was. It was, I mean, all the stars were aligned, all the planets were aligned, and things went practically perfect all the way from, the misfortune of Jeff breaking his leg, which was the beginning. It was the catalyst for a series of chain reactions that would have us return home to World Wrestling Entertainment and that magnificent, exhilarating return at WrestleMania 33.
And it's a life lesson in being okay to move outside of your comfort zone, being willing to do something different to make yourself stand out.
Yeah.
Because if you didn't do that, none of this happens then.
Yeah, yeah. And that's one thing, that I would really stress adamantly to people, like, be you, and if you have something that you want to give it a shot, you want to try something out that's different, that you think people might ridicule you about or might criticize you about it, it's okay. Let them do it. Let them do you, especially in this day and age with social media. So many people are so hypocritical, and, they give other people a hard time. You have to remember, social media is social media, reality is reality, and they do not reflect one another. Like, if you have something you want to try and you feel confident in yourself, you have a good game plan, go do it. And don't be afraid to be yourself, man. We are all special. We're all unique, and do you. And once you become comfortable with being yourself, it will lessen your load on life greatly.
Let's answer some questions from our fans here. We got a ton of them. George the Third Hardy Ramirez says, how did the fans' reaction make you both feel? We heard a little bit how you felt walking down that aisle, but did you get a chance to talk to Jeff about it? And what was his reaction?
Yeah, I mean, we were both just so extremely grateful. And it was unbelievable. I mean, we hoped it would be good. We'd be welcomed back with loving arms. But I mean, it's just like, it was insane. And just to walk out in front of that sea of humanity was overwhelming and surreal. And really, when I explained, to me, it was dreamlike. It really was. And I sometimes I have to go back and watch it to remember that it was reality. It wasn't a dream. It's something that really happened. And I know Jeff thought it was great. And at the end of the day, he was just so happy he was able to pull off his ladder stunt. He's a stunt man. And I remember the first thing he said whenever he came back, he said, "Damn, man, I'm so glad I didn't fall off the top of that ladder, man." Yeah, but it was great. Just such a great moment. He was very thrilled with it all and took it all in. And it was really a huge W for Matt and Jeff Hardy on that day.
Cowan's 29 asks, how hard was it to keep the secret of your return? Were there times you thought the secret would come out completely?
For me, it was very easy. All that stuff really is, it's just kind of who I am. And it's one of my qualities, I think. Whenever I describe my mind as a locked room, there's a lot of things going on in there, and there's some stuff that just has to stay there, and it is what it is. But, I know the more secretive we can keep it, and both myself and Triple H, and this was also from speaking with Vince briefly right at the very beginning, not the time he called to, tell me to make sure to keep Brother Nero in check. It was very important for all of us to keep this very in a tight inner circle and only let this be known by a handful of people, as few as we could possibly manage. The minimal amount of people that would know about this return would help to guarantee it doesn't leak or get out. It's something as something officially happening. And that happens all the time now. And it's really hard in the age of technology to keep secrets like this, especially if something ends up going, into a travel department or a PR department or whatever. Like I said, Mark Carano actually did our travel going there when that wasn't his gig, just to protect it, to make sure no one spread the word about it. So everyone stayed really tight-lipped about it. And they did a great job on their end, the WWE office. I give them huge kudos for that. Triple H did a great job on his end. And the only person that we told about it was obviously my family, and Jeff's family knew about it. But the only person that I told about it and confirmed it was the Bucks of Youth. And that was after I kept getting phone calls all day. And I told them, I said, well, we just need to be smart because, I've been getting calls from up the chain. Like they want to make sure we're safe today because, tomorrow we're going back to Mania. And, of course, the Bucks like, oh, yeah, we kind of guessed that. And we said, and they said, oh, hold up, in the tag match? I said, yeah, we're in the tag line match. Oh, that's so cool. He said, yeah, man, we'll make sure to do it. And I said, look, and you guys remember this. You guys beat us for the tag titles tonight, and then we go back and win the WWE tag titles tomorrow. Use that to your advantage. So you're the greatest tag team in the world. I remember hitting them with that line whenever I said that as well. So yeah, we told them, and they were on board, and they were going to make sure to keep everything as safe as possible as well.
Well, Ryan asked this, and it's great that you said that, and he wasn't the only one. We got several questions about this. How sore were you guys heading into the WrestleMania match after that insane ladder match the night before?
Yeah, we had that, and then we also had Lucha and Penta, where we had a pretty solid entertaining match that night too. I was a little sore, but like once again, my wheelhouse is to kind of do the more fundamental stuff. I did take some big bumps in that match, but I don't remember being terribly bad. And I just remember the only time I really felt super sore or even hurt at all, I feel like there was a point where Enzo got thrown out on everybody in the WrestleMania match. And I remember taking that like over the head and neck. Like I think my neck was a little sore. I was like, that was the only point where I remember like feeling pain during that match. And like when I did the twist to Carl Anderson, that was a pretty big bump. And I remember kind of knocked the wind out of me. But I felt like I was pretty good during that match and all throughout that weekend. I remember Jeff saying he was sore, but he said, oh, if I stretch and work it out okay, I'll be fine. So I think we were pretty good in the big scheme of things. But I mean, looking back at it, like it was a very tough schedule for two guys who have multiple bump cards full.
After you murdered Enzo Amore.
Yeah, murder me. Whatever you want to do, murder me. Murder me. So funny. I love it.
RJ wants to know, where does this comeback in victory rank amongst your other matches and moments with and without Jeff?
I mean, once again, I think we would both classify this as a hugely special moment, whether we're doing a category that features our tag team moments or our singles moments. I mean, this is up there. This is a top 5, maybe even pushed up to top 3. It's hard to judge those moments. They're all different, but this one was extremely special, and it was definitely one of the most special moments of our career, both as a team and as individuals.
Russ asks, knowing WWE's recent track record of butchering popular acts from outside their realm, did you have concerns coming in about what they would do with the Broken universe? Now, this is something I imagine when we talk about Woken Matt later this year, I think month we're talking about, and we'll get more into that. But there had to have been some degree of hesitance of putting this property in this juggernaut's hands.
Do you know what I believe in, John?
What do you believe in?
Reality. And I knew the reality of that is that, Vince is going to want to put his spin on it. It's going to be different. I was just like, my goal in returning to WWE, doing a Broken Matt Hardy run, was to get my creation on WWE TV, make it as good as I possibly can. I knew it was going to be limited. There were going to be parameters. And then I wanted to have a Hardy compound deletion match. And I was able to get all that. So I'm very happy, and I consider it a success in the big scheme of things. I didn't go in with unrealistic expectations. So I was never disappointed in anything.
A wrestling historian says, do you know who was going to win the tag team championship match at WrestleMania if you and Jeff hadn't come back? But based on what you said, it seems like the plans were all along you guys were going to win it if you had been signed for about a month at that point.
Yeah, we were definitely going to win it. I mean, I got to think if we weren't going to,
Had to have been Enzo Cass. Had to have been.
I was going to say there would have been a possibility it could have been the bar, but I would have guessed it would have been Enzo and Cass because they were still real hot at that time. And it would have been their time to do it, and it would have made them as a WrestleMania moment.
100%.
So that if you ask me who would have ultimately ended up going over in that match, if it ended up as a three-way ladder match, I would have guessed Enzo and Cass.
Yeah, me too. And building on that, Sam asked, did you sense any unhappiness from the other teams when they learned of your entry into the match? And how do you handle that when something like that happens? So you had said that Carano iggy'd you that maybe the bar would be a little upset that they weren't going to win. Did you get a vibe that that was the case?
Not really. I mean, it's one of those things. They both take wrestling very seriously, which and props to them for that. So that's cool. Once we got in there and we started talking about the match, everybody was business, everybody was great, and everybody was a pleasure to work with. So no, we were all good. Everybody that was involved in that match are the utmost professionals. So everybody was good, and it was a great team effort.
Here's our last question coming from Graham, and I saved this for last because I feel like
Graham who?
Graham. This is from Graham. I'll pull him up on social media. I'll put his handle over here. Let's see. Sorry, I'm digging through all of our socials. This is from, we got even more. Graham Robbenheimer.
Okay.
From South Africa.
Okay.
So
there's a few that reach out to me. So I just want to say, okay.
Well, we always like engaging, regardless of whether your name is Graham or not. But Graham wants to know, and it's a nice way to bow tie all of this, Matt. What did Vince say to the pair of you after the match?
We came back through the curtain, and I remember he just stood up, and he came, stuck out his hand, slapped his hands, each of us, pulled us in for a big hug. That was fucking awesome. That was fucking awesome. Fuck. Great. Fuck yeah. We're back in business. That was his reaction afterwards.
That had to make you feel real good.
It was very, very kind of him, and it was very nice to see that excitement with him. And it's one of those things too. Like I know him well enough from just working with him long enough. That is most like. I mean, it was a special. I mean, you can't deny crowd reaction, even if the match is not a spectacular masterpiece. If the crowd reaction is there, you have more than done your job. And that is what Vince is looking for first and foremost. So I knew he'd be happy about it. So I knew he would get that. And I just, the fact that we would go back there and we were given that opportunity and it went so well and he was happy with it. It was just a great way to kick off our return to WWE.
And the most satisfactory reaction, Rebby Hardy, who got to be there and see it all. And she is such a big part of that story for you guys. So
yeah, she really was. Yeah. She is, when people say like ride or die, man, that is her. I mean, she is the best, like once again, there's people who can be critical of how, blunt she is, but it's just like, dude, I wouldn't expect her to be any other way. And like, it's one of those things like it takes a while for people to fully earn her trust or respect or, whatever it may be. She's not she's not an easy person to get close with, but once you do, I mean, there's nobody better. You wouldn't want anybody else on your team besides her. So I was very happy she was there to share that moment with me.
And the best part about it is everything worked out in the end. You and Ed got on the same page. You and Jeff Jarrett got on the same page. All the talent got to keep their gimmicks, and the Hardy Boys got their moment. This was perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it was so nice. I actually, even to just mention this a little bit, to bow tie it up a little bit as well. I remember right after I started doing Woken Matt Hardy, we were in Toronto, and I had spoke to Ed. We were kind of in contact. This is when he had kind of, he had made the decision, like, like apologize, like let's work out an agreement and let's, be on the same page. And I would rather work together than against one another. And we sat down and we had lunch and ate and just had a great conversation. And it was good to see him and back on the same page. And Ed Nordum is just a tremendous stand-up dude, a really good dude. Once again, whenever we first got into our squabble about everything, he was just being given some bad advice. He entered a world that he didn't really know or understand. He was really, literally learning on the job. So I'm happy everything got ironed out, and I'm happy we were able to sit down and meet and mend fences and be friends. And whenever we were working for AEW, when the AEW Impact agreement was in, full force, we were able to go, and I worked with him. I saw him there, and we're back at the hotel once again. Had to have dinner and laugh and tell stories, and we had some amazing stories to tell that night. And we were even laughing about the business battles we were in and whatnot. So all's well that ends well, in my opinion. And it's one of those things too. I think when people go through those situations, people that are good people internally anyway, I feel like they become better from it. Whenever you learn, you learn a life lesson from a scenario.
And that puts a cap on our Becoming Broken series. I'm so glad we got to cover this in long form. It was one of the most enjoyable strain of shows I've ever done on any platform. So thank you for being so open with that stuff. I'm glad some of the unsung heroes got their due as well. The Jeremy Borashes, the production team involved with all that stuff.
You're right.
They deserve all those flowers.
Jeremy Borash, and Jimmy Long as well. They both deserve their flowers. And I wanted to say something about Jeremy Borash. I wanted to add this right at the very end. Jeremy Borash was so instrumental in that stuff, and he was so great. And I'd said that from day one. But something that I love, and this means a lot to me because I was like part of this creation. So, this is an experience that Jeremy and I will always share together, right? So whenever Taker was having the Boneyard match against AJ, Vince knew Jeremy Borash was the mastermind behind the production of the Broken Universe, and he knows I was the one that came up with the character and a lot of the content and the Brother Nero stuff, whatever creative. We kind of worked together. We had a great synergy with it. But whenever the Boneyard match was happening, I think Kevin Dunn was super hyped and like wanting to do the Boneyard match. And Vince went Hardy, said, no, I want the guy that did the Hardy stuff. I need Jeremy Borash to do this. I want to get this thing right. I want Taker to have his input in it, like Matt had his input into the Broken Universe shit. I want Jeremy Borash to head this up. So considering Jeremy Borash, was the producer and he really helped us so much with the content and the TV production of the Broken Universe stuff, the fact that Vince went hard for him and assigned him over Kevin Dunn to do the Boneyard match because he wanted it to be Taker's last big deal at a WrestleMania was so cool. And that's also so flattering. And it makes me so happy for Jeremy Borash and how high his stock had risen because of the stuff we did together.
Well, the stock of the extreme life of Matt Hardy is only continuing to rise. Everyone wants to do a podcast now. Your boy Shannon Moore had first name Sham, last name Payne on his podcast. They're killing it. Shout out to them over there. And next week, we get back on track. We're going back in time to the year 2000, WrestleMania 2000. We've led our way up to that, and we're going to get a triangle ladder match between the Dudley Boys, the Hardy Boys, and Edge and Christian, and what is really the beginning of the new frontier of TLC matches that we're about to see. So I'm sure you're looking forward to that one.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, that match was technically not called a TLC, but in theory, it was the first TLC. It was the beginning of the TLC era.
It is the prototype TLC match, if you will. And we'll be covering that next week here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. Hit us with those Ask Matt questions. Hashtag Ask Matt at MattHardyPod, at MattHardyBrand, at John Alba. We want to hear from them. And we want to get your response to what you thought of the Becoming Broken series in this podcast. You go to Apple Podcasts, you go to Spotify, you go wherever you get your podcasts. And what do, Matt?
You make sure to drop that 5-star review. Not a V1 3-star review, not a 4 Horsemen 4-star review, a 5-star review.
Yes, and we'll be dropping a treat for one lucky winner at some point in the next month or so. It'll be very exciting. Check out the House Hardy on Twitch as well. And if you're in Jersey, check out Rebby Hardy this coming weekend at that La Quinta in Secaucus and have some fun. Check out her stuff. Show her some support.
And if you're in Greenville, South Carolina this weekend, I will be appearing at the big Greenville convention on both Saturday and Sunday. So I hope to see you there.
Okay, good stuff there. So much fun, Matt. Thank you for being so open with this episode. Anything else you'd like to add?
This was a blast, man. It was really fun to do. It's cathartic in many ways, just to revisit these moments and it just kind of relive them again. And it really was one of the most special moments and times of my career. And when I said that last week, like the whole Broken Universe, specifically like the period from like Delete or Decay leading all the way to WrestleMania with the whole Expedition of Gold really was the funnest time of my careers. I mean, we did so many different unorthodox things, and we were, painting outside the lines, and everything was like working, everything was clicking, and we were hitting homers and grand slams. So it was so much fun. And once again, anyone who has stayed this deep into the podcast, I know we're getting ready to go over the 2-hour mark right about now. I am happy that you've been here, and thank you for staying with us. And I hope you've been entertained. And I'm finally kind of getting the hang of this podcast gig, I feel like. So today has been a good day. Thank you very much for joining us. And make sure every Friday, tune in to the Extreme Life of Matt Hardy. And I promise you, I'm going to pour out through the screen, through this audio, through this microphone. I'm going to give you my heart and soul and every fiber of my essence, to entertain you and tell you a story and be open and honest and give a full disclosure and be insightful. That is my goal. Thank you guys for joining us. I appreciate it.
The words have been spoken. Matt Hardy has been broken. We'll see you next time here on The Extreme Life of Matt Hardy.
Deletion!